Hello, and welcome to The Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm reviewing Shazam! Part of DC's The New 52. The observant among you may have noticed that I didn't give a year range this time, and that's because this comic, unlike the others I've covered, wasn't ever its own series, but instead they were backup features included at the end of issues of Geoff Johns' New 52 Justice League, starting from March 2012 and running through May 2013. It was then collected in 2018 into this edition, and then again in 2019 as Shazam Origins as build-up to the movie, but they're the exact same collection. Still, this was appropriate because if the trailers I've seen are any indication, the movie is heavily based off of this comic. Shazam, originally called Captain Marvel, made his first appearance in 1940, less than 2 years after Superman. Though his story was dramatically different than Clark Kent's, his superhero identity was clearly a visual ripoff of Superman's. And thus, DC Comics sued Captain Marvel publisher Fawcett Comics for copyright infringement. Marvel Comics grabbed up the name, for obvious reasons, and DC would eventually require the rights to the characters and merge their stories into the main DC continuity, which really is just one of the sleaziest business practices I've ever seen from a comic company. With the onset of the New 52 and DC rebooting everybody's story, it seemed prime time to give Captain Marvel a modern update. So let's see how they do and take this away. The series opens with this mountain of muscle named Dr. Savannah conducting research on magic. In particular, he's investigating a number of interviews with people claiming to have been abducted by lightning and then appearing before a mysterious old man in some mystical-looking cave. Most people would probably give as much credence to these stories as tales of alien abduction or creepypastas, but Savannah says these stories all bear a striking resemblance to the legend of Black Adam. If you're like me, you're probably thinking Savannah himself bears a striking resemblance to Black Adam, but if you're thinking he's going to become Black Adam, I'll go ahead and let you know he's not. For those even less initiated than me, Savannah is actually his own character from the Captain Marvel comics. Also, Black Adam, as he explains here, is a legendary hero of the ancient kingdom of Kondak. It's much more complicated than that, but I'll explain later. For now, let's get on to the main character of this series, Billy Batson. Billy is an orphan locked into the foster system, bouncing around from house to house without much success. But now, this loving couple, the Vasquezes, want to adopt him. Billy's pretty willing to con them with the sweet, charming kid act so he can finally get away from his social worker. Though they claim to hate each other, they actually seem pretty in tune, fighting with each other and working together like family. But she drops him off at the Vasquezes and disappears from the comics, so I suppose it's not important. Here we learn that the Vasquezes seem to be collecting children, as there's already 5 other children living in their house. From left to right, that's Pedro, Eugene, Mary, Freddie, and Darla. And I'm gonna take a minute to go ahead and go over who everybody is, because it's kind of important to the history of Shazam and this comic in particular. Mary is perhaps the oldest, or at least the best known, of the original Marvel family. If you've ever seen older pictures of Captain Marvel, you've probably seen him flying around with a girl dressed like him, but in a skirt. That's Mary. Originally, she was Billy's twin sister. Here she says her parents are dead, which I guess doesn't rule out this possibility, but they draw no specific connections. Also returning is Freddie, who, like Mary, got the power of Shazam in earlier stories. There he went by Captain Marvel Jr. because he would turn into a sort of teenage version of the regular Captain Marvel when powered up. Freddie was Billy's friend and classmate who was crippled by the evil Captain Nazi. And yes, I did just really want to say Captain Nazi. They keep his leg problems and crutches, but we get no explanation of how he ended up this way this time. There's no specific tragic background, though we do learn his parents are in prison. He seems to be taking after them a little, as he palms Billy's wallet and sells people fake sick notes and test answers. Pedro, Eugene, and Darla are not originally part of the Shazam family. I'm sure you can guess as to why. This isn't their first appearance though, as we saw this whole family makeup in Flashpoint, with some slight changes. Pedro comes off as a bit dopey, which I found a little offensive at first, personally, but I think they intended him as awkward and shy, as we do see him act like a normal person later in the story. Eugene is possibly a little autistic, or at least some sort of child prodigy. I'm gonna go with autistic though, since he's unable to understand how annoying it is for the teacher to get corrected in a long argument by a student. Darla is the youngest, and is super happy and fun-loving, which is extra impressive because she alone hasn't lost her parents. Instead, they dropped her off here at the Vasquezes and told her that they simply didn't want her anymore. Like, literally told her, which is pretty tragic, but apparently nothing can keep this kid down for long. Besides, they're getting some waffles. Wait, vanilla walnut waffles? How did you manage to make those things sound gross? Billy's not one for attachments, so he makes no effort to get along with anyone. This holds true through school the next day, until his new adoption family gets attacked by some school bullies, the Breyer brothers. Billy, like many a superhero before him, really hates bullies, so he totally kicks their asses. Wow, man. Even without superpowers, this Billy is ready to throw down. The adults around Billy aren't so appreciative though, and this fighting gets him in trouble with his new parents, the school principal, whose name by the way is Peach. Principal Peach. Seriously? And this Lionel Luthor looking rich D-bag who is apparently the father of the bullies. Billy is still acting too cool for this school though, so he goes home and goes on to bed without even eating his dinner. Turns out he was saving that burger though to give to his best pal, Tawny the Tiger. Pickle free, just like she likes it. This touching moment is interrupted by Freddy, who saw Billy leave and decided to follow him. They have a bit of a heart-to-heart about missing parents before deciding to go get some payback on the Briars. Their rather lame plan of breaking into the Briars Hummer and rolling it down a hill doesn't go as planned, and the car alarm wakes the entire family. Billy shoves Freddy into a bush since he can't run away, and leads the Briar brothers on a chase. He escapes by jumping on the subway just as the doors close. Man, I see that a lot in TV shows and movies, and it always works. Seems like it's probably not actually that easy to do. I'd like to see a story where this doesn't work. It doesn't really matter though, as the real point was to get Billy down here so that he could get abducted by lightning to Magic Land. Billy roams through this weird underground castle filled with all kinds of magical looking stuff and, a snowman? Is it like a magical snowman? I guess there at least must have been some magic in that old silk hat. Billy then comes across a big holographic display that turns on at his touch, and does the thing you totally know you'd do in the same situation of running across it and turning on all the displays. This is both a pretty fun and clever way of introducing the 7 deadly sins, who are going to be important later in the story. It's also a great callback to the issue of Wiz Comics where Shazam first appeared. Finally, he gets to this old man, who has been looking for the world's only purely good person for possibly thousands of years, without much success. Billy is seen to clearly not be that person, which should come as no surprise if you've been paying any attention. But he does explain to the old man that the task is stupid anyway, because no one is purely good. If they are, they're taken advantage of until they become just another bad person themselves. Teenagers. So cynical, am I right? This convinces the wizard to instead search for the potential for good, which he finds Billy to have in spades. Also, he's kinda out of time, so he grants Billy the powers of Shazam. Shazam! Billy proceeds to do what any teenager would do if he suddenly became an adult-sized man with superpowers. Test them out, screw around with people, and try to get some beer. Though he doesn't go looking for danger, he keeps stumbling upon problems like this mugging, this bank robbery, and this liquor store holdup. I particularly like when he stops the mugging, and the grateful lady asks what she can do to repay him, and his response is, well, you know, I'm a little short on cash. Like, he basically just stopped a thief and then became one himself. But especially great about this is Freddy and Billy's reaction to the fact that she actually gave him a 20. That's good stuff. They come to realize all the danger they're coming across is actually one of Billy's new superpowers, as is explained to them by this mirror lady. And that leads them to the big showdown against Black Adam. See, the whole time Billy was getting in trouble and turning into Shazam, Dr. Sivana was continuing his search into magic. In Baghdad, his team discovers a magic door that grants him the ability to see magic. He uses that ability to further search the area until he finds the tomb of Black Adam. The tomb can only be opened by saying the magic word, Open Sesame! Oh, no, it's Shazam. Yeah, I should have seen that coming. Black Adam emerges, angry at having been imprisoned for thousands of years and wanting revenge on the wizard. He kills everyone there except Sivana, who can speak his language for magic reasons, I guess? Sivana shows Adam that the more things change, the more they stay the same. Adam shows Sivana that the 7 deadly sins really exist. Apparently, Adam was once the enemy of the sins, but now he wants to recruit them to help find and defeat the new hero of the wizard. So that brings us back to the battle. While Adam wants Billy dead, Billy doesn't have any interest in a fight. He's more interested in where Adam came from and why his clothes are so much cooler. He's also surprised to learn that he can be hurt while he's Shazam, which he discovers when Adam attacks him unprovoked. Billy tries to hide and run away, taking solace once again with Tawny. That's where the rest of the kids find him, and the magic mirror lady appears on Eugene's iPad to share some of Black Adam's history. Here we learn that the previous champion of the wizard was also a child. He was a boy who was basically Temple of Doomed into enslavement in some mines by the pharaohs back in ancient Egypt until the day his uncle found him and helped him escape. Billy, thinking he now understands Black Adam, runs out to face him again and talk to him, orphan to orphan. Unfortunately, that's not the end of the story. While the wizard does give the power to the boy chooses to share it with his uncle to save the man's life since he was stabbed helping the boy escape. While the boy wants to use the powers for good, Uncle Adam wants revenge on the pharaohs that enslaved them. Since he can't talk the boy into his plan, he has them call down the lightning together, and while it's not directly shown what happens here, I think the idea is he snaps the boy's neck right before they're transformed, so that he can permanently become the one and only empowered person. Black Adam wants Billy's powers now too, and now we know he has no qualms about killing a kid. To make things worse, Sivana has finished gathering together the 7 deadly sins, and they've gone to seek out the most sinful person in the city. It's Mr. Briar, if you couldn't guess, and they transform him into this Afrit-looking thing. Man, this comic really hates rich people, which, yeah, that's fair. Billy realizes he can gift his power to others, so instead of giving it to Adam, he gives it to his new family, to make an all-new, all-different Shazam family. I honestly think it's weird that they kept Mary's dress, especially when literally everyone else has pants, even the other girl. But I guess at least they didn't give her a bare midriff or thigh-high boots with knee windows or something weird like that. They seem to get some unique abilities too. Darla might have a bit of super speed, and Eugene seems to become a technopath, which honestly is one of my favorite superpowers. They still don't prove enough for the Sin Monster or Black Adam though. The fight spills over into the zoo where Tawny gets freed. The tiger remembers his buddy and tries to help, rather ineffectively. Luckily, no tigers were harmed in the making of this comic, as Billy Shazams Tawny as well. All this is still not enough to defeat Adam, so Billy tricks him into facing him mano-a-mano, no Shazam powers allowed. Finally returned to his human body, Adam suddenly ages as he should have, causing him to fall into dust. I have to admit, I'm pretty surprised this series flat out killed Shazam's biggest enemy, but I'm guessing at some point in the future, some writer will find a way to retcon in a new version. Conveniently, this also stops the Sin Demon, who reverts back to normal Mr. Briar, and his punishment for having been such a bad guy this whole time is to not have clothes on? Okay. The comic ends with Dr. Sivana, now wasted away by the magic that his body can't handle, to his golden age mad scientist version size, possibly teaming up with a mysterious talking worm calling himself Mr. Mind. I can just hear Mr. Mind talking creepily in James Spader's voice. Wouldn't that be the most disturbing possibility? Also, Billy seems to have finally accepted being a part of his new family. Aw, isn't that cute? But it's done, so let's get to the breakdown. While this story was told as disjointed, unconnected bits in the back of another series' comic, they actually come together pretty surprisingly well as a single graphic novel. The story is very easy to follow and actually a very strong reimagining of the Shazam mythology. It's filled with some good humor, some dark bits, and a very compelling and sympathetic main character. And that's why I'm giving this series a recommendation level of high. I have to admit, it surprised me that I like this comic so much. And whether you just want to learn about Shazam, or you've been a fan of his for a long time, I don't know why you wouldn't read this comic. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I wanted to cover a Shazam comic because today is the release day of the movie. I know a lot of people that are pretty excited about this movie, and I hope it's at least half as fun and entertaining as this comic was. If you've seen it, be sure to let me know in the comments how you think the two compare. That's all for now, and I hope to see you next time, right here in the Comic Cave.